The blade came at my throat before I even finished my drink. I dropped the glass, grabbed the attacker's wrist and twisted. Bone cracked. The tall figure in the black cloak made a strange hissing sound and stumbled back. Behind him, two more were already moving across the dusty floor of the bar I had maybe 3 seconds before. They reached me. My name is Marcus Kane. I was 34 years old, a former soldier from Earth, and all I wanted that night was a quiet drink before finding a ship home. Instead, I was about to fight for my life in a dockside bar on a trading station called Vixtali 7600. Light years from anything that felt like home. I spun to my left and kicked the wooden stool beside me. It flew across the bar and hit the second attacker in the chest. He folded over like wet paper. The third one drew a long silver weapon from under his cloak, and that was when I saw them properly. Krevthar mercenaries. Their gray skin was covered in ritual scars and their eyes glowed faint yellow in the dim light. These were not small criminals. These were trained fighters, and somebody had paid them good money to do whatever they were doing. But they were not here for me. I realized that as the third one ignored me and rushed past toward a hooded figure in the corner booth, small, graceful, clearly not human, and clearly the real target. I do not know why I moved. Maybe it was the soldier still alive inside me. Maybe it was the 3 against 1 that bothered me. Whatever it was, I grabbed the heavy metal tray from the bar counter, closed the distance in 4 steps, and brought it down hard across the back of the third attacker's head. He dropped like a stone. The bar went completely silent. 40 or 50 aliens of every shape and color stared at me, a Brenton trader with 4 eyes, a pair of Solemite twins sharing the same body, a group of quiet gray, Velish merchants who looked away the moment I met their gaze. Nobody moved to help. Nobody moved at all. Any more of them? I asked the room. Nobody answered. Of course they did not answer. I walked over to the booth and looked at the hooded figure. You all right? A small hand pulled back the dark hood, and I stopped breathing for just a second. She was beautiful in a way I did not have words for. Her skin was a soft silver, almost glowing in the low light, and her eyes were the color of melted gold, not yellow gold, real gold, like coins, only alive and watching me. Her hair was white as fresh snow and fell down her shoulders in soft waves. She wore a simple gray travel robe, but I could see fine stitching around the edges that probably cost more than my entire life savings. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she said in perfect standard common, "You are human. Last time I checked, you attacked 3 Krevthar warriors, alone with a bar tray and a stool." She blinked slowly. "And a stool, yes." Her voice had a strange musical quality, like wind moving through thin glass. "Bells, do you understand what you have just done? I think I made some enemies. You saved the life of the crown princess of the Aurelian Dominion." I looked at her. I looked at the 3 unconscious bodies on the floor. I looked back at her. "Well," I said, "that is not what I was expecting." Her name was Lyra the Veliner, and she was, as she said, a princess, not just any princess. The Aurelian Dominion was one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the known galaxy. Their kingdom covered over 2,000 star systems. Their warships could turn a moon into dust, and here was their royal heir, alone in a dirty bar with 3 hired killers trying to cut her throat. Something was very wrong. "We need to move," I said, "now before more of them show up." She nodded once and stood. She was smaller than I had expected, barely reaching my shoulder, but she moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had been trained her whole life to walk like royalty, even when running for her life. "My ship is in Bay 12, she said. "I have a guard there, just one I still trust." "Just one? What happened to the rest?" Her golden eyes went dark. "They tried to hand me over in the market square 2 hours ago." I said nothing. I just picked up the silver weapon the third attacker had dropped and checked it. Energy blade, fully charged. Nice piece of work. "Let's go," I said. We moved quickly through the back hallways of the station. Vixtalis 7 was a wheel-shaped trading hub, all metal corridors and flashing neon signs. In a dozen alien languages, steam hissed from pipes overhead. The floor vibrated with the low hum of old engines. Every few steps I checked our back trail. Nothing yet, but I could feel eyes on us. "Why are you alone out here, princess?" I asked as we ducked down a service corridor. "Royalty does not travel without an army." I was supposed to be on a diplomatic trip to the Veshian Belle, she said quietly. "My uncle arranged the whole journey. Small ship, small crew," he said. "It was to avoid drawing attention from the Purity Accord." The Who, a political group that hates non-pure species. They hate your kind, Marcus Kane. They hate humans most of all. Good to know. My uncle said a quiet trip would be safer than a royal convoy. I believed him. Her voice got even quieter. I was wrong. 3 hours ago my own guards tried to take me. I barely escaped. I ran to that bar because it was the only place without cameras I thought I could hide, until I contacted my father. "Your uncle sold you out." "It seemed so." We turned a corner and saw the docking bay ahead, a huge metal door marked 12. Standing beside it was a tall figure in polished silver armor holding a long energy spear. He saw us and raised the weapon, then lowered it sharply when he recognized Lyra the Veliner. "Your Highness." His voice was deep and full of relief. I feared the worst. "Captain Oren," she said, "this man saved my life. He comes with us." Captain Oren looked at me. His eyes were deep blue, set into a sharp, noble face. He was clearly Aurelian, but taller than Lyra the Veliner, closer to my height. He looked at me the way most aliens look at humans, like I was a strange creature in a zoo. "A human," he said. "Your Highness, with respect, humans are not cleared for royal transport." He fought 3 Krevthar with his bare hands, she said. "He is cleared. He comes with us." Captain Oren opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He stepped aside. The door opened and I saw the ship. I have seen a lot of ships in my life. Military ships, cargo haulers, racing yachts. Nothing prepared me for the Aurelian royal cruiser. It was long and graceful, shaped like a curving leaf, made of silver and pearl. Blue light flowed along its edges in soft waves. It did not look like a machine at all. It looked like something grown rather than built. "Come," Lyra the Veliner said. "We have to leave before they find us." We ran up the boarding ramp. The inside of the ship was even more beautiful than the outside. The walls were smooth and cream-colored. Soft music played from somewhere I could not see. The air Smelled like fresh flowers, not recycled. Metal, I felt suddenly very dirty. My old earth jacket had blood on it. My boots were scuffed. I did not belong here. The ramp closed behind us. A moment later I felt the soft push as the ship lifted away from the station. On a wall screen I watched Vixtali's 7 shrink. Behind us, no pursuit yet, that would not last. Captain Oren, Lyra the Veliner said. Set course for Selvinner Prime, maximum safe speed, do not stop for any reason. Understood, Your Highness. He bowed and hurried off down a curving corridor. Lyra the Veliner turned to me. She looked very tired suddenly, very young. Thank you, Marcus Kane, she said. Softly, I do not know why you chose to help me, but I owe you my life. You do not owe me anything. Humans always say that, and then they spend the rest of their lives reminding you that you owe them. Her mouth curved into a small, tired smile. Or so I have. Read. You have been reading about humans. I find your species interesting. Most of my people do not. She studied me carefully. Are you a soldier? I used to be. And now? A mechanic trying to get home. She nodded slowly. I would like to offer you a position, Marcus, temporary, until we reach my capital. I need someone I can trust, someone who is not from my court. And GT snorts. And GT, someone who just saved me when he had no reason to. I am not a bodyguard, princess. I know I am not asking for a bodyguard. I am asking for a friend. Just for a little while. I thought about it. I thought about how close I had come to dying tonight. I thought about my ship sitting impounded back on Vextali's. I thought about the look in her uncle's conspiracy, the way the Krevthar had moved with purpose. The fact that somebody very powerful wanted this girl dead. I thought about the fact that I had left Earth 10 years ago and never really found a reason to go back. All right, I said, until we reach your capital. She smiled. This time the smile reached her golden eyes. Welcome aboard the Selverin Dawn, Marcus Kane. She walked me to a small room near the back of the ship, a guest quarters, soft white bed, curved walls, a window looking out at the stars flowing past. I dropped my old travel bag on the floor. Rest, she said. We have 3 days until we reach the capital. You are safe here. She closed the door behind her. I stood alone in that quiet, beautiful room, and I looked out at the stars. But I did not rest. I could not. Something was very wrong with this whole situation. A princess traveling alone. Guards turning on her. An uncle who set up the whole trip. Hired Krevthar who knew exactly where to find her. This was not some random attack. This was a plan. A big one, and I had just put myself right in the middle of it. I walked to the small mirror on the wall and looked at myself, a tired face. Looked back, gray eyes, dark hair cut short, an old scar on my left cheek from a fight I did not like to remember. I did not look dangerous. That was by design. Most people in the galaxy thought humans were weak, small, primitive, a backwater species that got lucky and found the stars. The Aurelians, the Krevthar, the Brentons, all the old races had decided very politely that humans were cute, but not important, a curiosity, a pet species. They were wrong. They just did not know it yet. And there was a reason they did not know. There was a reason. My government had worked very hard for 50 years to keep Certain information quiet, certain truths about what Earth really was, about what my species really was, about the 4 billion years of hard, brutal evolution that had shaped us into something that the rest of the galaxy, in all their peaceful wisdom, had simply never faced. I hoped Lyra the never had to find out. I really did. But I had a feeling, deep in my gut, that before this was over she was going to see exactly what a human could do. And nothing in the galaxy was going to be quite the same after that. I sat down on the soft bed, closed my eyes, and listened to the quiet hum of the Aurelian royal cruiser carrying me deeper into a conspiracy I did not yet understand. 3 days to the capital. 3 days until everything changed. The first day on the Selverin dawn passed in a blur of quiet observation. I walked the ship slowly, learning its corners, its habits, its people, and people were watching me. I could feel it. The crew of the royal cruiser was small. 12 Aurelians, all in different shades of silver and white, all moving with that same graceful quietness. They did not speak to me. They did not even look directly at me. When I walked down a hallway, they pressed themselves against the walls to let me pass, their golden eyes lowered, but I could feel them staring at my back the moment I turned away. I was the first human any of them had ever seen up close. On the morning of the second day, Lyra they found me in the small observation lounge near the front of the ship. I was drinking something hot and green that the food machine had given me when I pressed the button marked morning drink. It tasted like grass soaked in honey. Not bad, actually. You did not sleep, she said, sitting down across from me. How do you know? Your eyes. Humans have very expressive eyes. She was wearing different clothes today. A long pale blue dress that flowed around her like water, with fine silver patterns along the sleeves. Her white hair was tied back in a simple braid. She looked for a moment less like princess and more like a girl my sister's age, my sister who I had not seen in 8 years. I was thinking, I said, about who tried to kill you and why. And what did you decide? I decided I do not know enough yet. She smiled that small, tired smile again, and picked up a cup of her own drink. Something purple and steaming. What would you like to know, Marcus Kane? Start with your uncle. Her smile vanished. My uncle is called Corriton Veliner, she said slowly. He is my father's younger brother, a good speaker, a clever politician. He has many friends in the high court. For many years he has been patient, always smiling, always helpful, always standing just behind my father, just behind me, waiting. Waiting for what? For an opportunity. My father is old. Now I am his only heir. If something happens to me, my uncle becomes the next in line for the throne. I put my drink down. That is a clean motive. Yes. And the purity accord, where do they fit? She was quiet for a long time before answering. When she did, her voice was very careful, like someone walking across ice. The purity accord is not just a political group, she said. It is a movement. It began about 40 years ago, right after your species was admitted to the conquered. Some of the older civilizations did not like that decision. They felt that humans were too young, too primitive, too different. They said that letting your kind into galactic politics would, over time, pollute everything that the conquered had built over 10,000 years. Nice people, They are not nice people, no, but they are powerful. They have quietly gained support in many noble houses. My uncle is one of their secret backers. He believes, like they do, that humans are a mistake, a contamination, something to be removed from the galaxy before you spread too far. And you disagree. I am on the Concord Integration Council. I voted last year to expand human trade rights to 6 more systems. I have been working quietly for 3 years to push for full human voting rights in the Concord Assembly. Her golden eyes met mine. So yes, Marcus, I disagree with them. I disagree with them very much, and I suspect that is another reason they want me gone. I sat back in my chair. The pieces were fitting together now. A princess who supported humans, an uncle who wanted the throne, a political movement that wanted humans destroyed, and assassination dressed up as a diplomatic trip. Your uncle thinks he can have it all. I said, kill you, take the throne, and clear out humans from the galaxy. It would seem so. And your father, does he know what his brother is? My father is a good man, but he sees the best in people, especially his own family. She looked down at her hands. He would not believe me, Marcus, not without proof, hard proof, the kind that cannot be argued away. Then we get proof. She looked up. You hired me for 3 days, princess. I am going to earn my pay. Her smile came back, and for the first time since I had met her, it reached all the way to her golden eyes and stayed there. Later that day, I met Captain Oren again. He found me in the ship's small exercise room where I was doing simple push-ups and stretches to keep my body from getting stiff. He stood in the doorway and watched me for a long time. You move well, he finally said. Thanks. Military. Earth Defense Corps, 5 years active, 4 years reserve. He nodded slowly and stepped into the room. Up close I could see that Captain Oren was older than I had first thought. Small lines around his eyes, a quiet steadiness that only came from many years of service. You fought Krevthar, he said, with bare hands. That is not a thing most humans could do. Most humans do not get paid to do it. He almost smiled, almost, then his face went serious again. The princess trusts you, he said. She trusts you because she is young and kind, and has not yet learned that trust is expensive. I have served her father for 30 years. I will serve her until the day I die, and I will tell you now, human, very plainly, if you harm her in any way, I will end you. I met his blue eyes and held them. Captain, I said, if anyone tries to harm her, I will end them first. We looked at each other for a long moment, then Captain Oren nodded just once and walked out of the room. I went back to my push-ups, but I was smiling now just a little. I had just made my first real friend in the Aurelian Dominion. I did not know it yet, but I was going to need him very badly before the end. Later that night, alone in my small guest room, I pulled out the one thing I had kept hidden in my travel bag for the last 10 years, a small black device, no bigger than my thumb. It looked like a simple data chip. It was not. I pressed my thumb against the side of the device. It warmed slightly. Recognizing my print, a soft blue light appeared. Connection established, a quiet voice said inside my ear. The voice was female, calm, programmed to sound like my old commanding officer. This is Earth Defense Corps Emergency Relay. State your identification and situation. Kane Marcus, service number 237,419. Off-duty contractor. Situation, I need a full information. Package on the Purity Accord, Duke Korth, and Veliner of the Aurelian Dominion, and any recent mercenary activity in the Vextalis region. Processing request, stand by. I waited through the small window of my room. The stars streaked past in long lines of white light. The Silveran Dawn was moving fast now, carrying us deeper into Aurelian space, toward a capital city and a conspiracy, and a confrontation I was not yet ready for. Package delivered, the quiet voice said. Additional note: Corps Command has flagged your current situation for priority monitoring. Recommendation: proceed with extreme caution. You may be walking into something larger than one assassination attempt. I looked at the stars. Yes, I said quietly, I think I am. I put the device away and lay back on the bed. I closed my eyes, but I did not sleep. Somewhere ahead of us, in a golden city, built on a world I had never seen, something was waiting for us, something old and patient and very, very dangerous. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt that old feeling wake up inside my chest, the feeling I had buried when I left the Corps, the feeling that had kept me alive through 100 fights I should not have walked away from. The hunter was awake again, and somebody very soon was going to be very sorry. The second full day on the Silveran Dawn was when things began to turn. I woke up early before the ship's artificial sun cycle began its slow, brightening. Old habit in the Corps. You learn to wake up before dawn, because that was when bad things like to happen. I lay in the soft bed for a moment, listening. Something was wrong. I could not say what exactly. The ship sounded the same, the quiet hum of the engines, the soft hiss of air through the vents, but under those sounds I could hear something else, something that should not be there. Footsteps, slow, careful, 2 sets of them moving down the corridor outside my room. I sat up silently and reached for the silver energy blade I had taken from the Krevthar attacker. I had kept it under my pillow. Old habit again. The footsteps passed my door and continued down the hall toward the front of the ship, toward the princess's quarters. I was out of bed and moving in 4 seconds. I opened my door a crack and looked out. The corridor was dim, lit only by the soft blue night lights along the floor. At the far end of the hall, 2 figures were walking. They wore crew uniforms. They moved quietly, carefully. They were not supposed to be there. The princess's quarters were not on the standard crew patrol route. Captain Oren had shown me the schedule himself. Something was very wrong. I slipped out of my room and followed them. My feet made no sound on the soft carpet. I had done this before many times in places much darker than this one. I kept 10 behind the 2 figures, staying in the shadows along the wall. They reached the end of the corridor, where it opened into a small waiting area outside Lyra's rooms. They stopped. They looked at each other. One of them nodded, and then they pulled small blades from inside their uniforms. I moved. I covered the distance between us before either of them saw me coming. The first one turned just in time to see my fist. Before it reached him, he went down hard. The second one was faster. He spun, his blade flashing, and I felt the tip of it slice across my left arm. Sharp pain, shallow cut. I ignored it. I grabbed his wrist, twisted, and slammed his head against the wall. He crumpled. It took about 4 seconds total. I stood over the two bodies, breathing. Slow and quiet, I checked them, both still alive, both out cold. Both wearing Aurelian Royal Crew uniforms, both with fake ID tags. Now that I looked closely, I turned to Lyra's door and knocked. Softly. "Princess, it's Marcus. We have a problem." The door slid open. Lyra stood there in a simple sleeping robe, her white hair loose around her shoulders. She took one look at the two bodies on the floor, and her face went very pale. "They were trying to get into your room," I said quietly. She stared down at the would-be attackers, then she looked at me. Her golden eyes were wide, but not afraid. Not yet. There was something else in them, something harder. "Marcus," she said very softly, "your arm is bleeding. I'll live." "Who are they? Crew, or they were dressed like crew?" "Fake tags. These were planted on your ship before we ever left Vextalis. Maybe before your trip even began." She closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them again, the hardness was still there, and something new. Something that looked a lot like anger. "Captain Oren," she said into her wrist. "Communicator. Report to my quarters immediately, and bring a full security detachment. At once, Your Highness." She lowered her wrist and looked at me. "Marcus," she said, "I think we just found out how deep this goes. We just found out it goes deeper than you thought," I said, "and we still have almost 2 full days until we reach your capital." She nodded slowly, still looking at the 2 attackers on the floor. "Then we had better be ready," she said, "for whatever comes next." I looked down at the blood slowly dripping from my arm onto the pale carpet. I thought about the long days ahead. I thought about the capital city, waiting at the end of this journey, full of enemies we did not yet know. I thought about the uncle sitting on his throne, smiling his patient smile, waiting for news that his niece was dead. I smiled too, but my smile was different. "Princess," I said, "being ready is exactly what I do best." Captain Oren arrived within 2 minutes, flanked by 4 armed Aurelian guards. His face went stone cold when he saw the 2 fake crew members on the floor. He said nothing for a long moment. He simply stood there, looking down at them. I could see his jaw working slowly. "I am sorry, Your Highness," he finally said. His voice was tight. "I failed you. I vetted every crew member personally. I do not know how they got past me." "Do not blame yourself, Captain," Lyra said. "These 2 came with forged credentials designed to fool even you. My uncle has resources we did not account for." Captain Oren nodded once sharply. He turned to his guards. "Take them to the secure hold. Keep them sedated. Search every crew member aboard this ship. If anyone objects, restrain them. I want every single person accounted for and verified within the hour." "Yes, Captain." The guards dragged the 2 attackers away. Lyra watched them go, her face calm, but I could see the slight tremor in her hands. "Princess," I said quietly, "you should sit down." "I am fine." "You are shaking." "I am a Veliner." "We do not shake." "Your hands did not get the message." She looked down at her hands and let out a small, soft laugh. It was a tired, Sound, but it was real. She sat down on the edge of the small couch in her receiving room. "You are very strange, Marcus Kane," she said. "I get that a lot." Captain Oren looked at my arm. The cut was still bleeding a little. Not bad. I had seen worse. I had given myself worse. Once, working on an engine that decided to disagree with me. "You need that treated," the captain said. "It's fine. You just saved the princess's life. Again, you will not bleed on her carpet. Come." He led me to a small medical room 3 doors down the hall. The ship's medical officer, a quiet Aurelian female with very soft, pale green skin, cleaned and sealed the cut with a small blue device that hummed like a bee. The pain faded almost immediately. In 10 minutes the wound was closed, covered with a thin, transparent healing patch. "Human skin heals fast," the medic said, her voice full of quiet curiosity. "Interesting. You will feel no pain by tomorrow." "Good to know." She studied me for another moment with her golden eyes. Then she said, "May I ask a personal question, human?" "Sure." "Is it true that humans can run without stopping for many hours in the old times before your cities?" I smiled. "Yes, it's true. Our ancestors used to hunt by just running after animals until the animals got too tired to keep going. No weapons, just legs and patient. We would chase them across whole deserts." Her eyes got very wide. "Across deserts, sometimes for days. That is extraordinary. That is just Tuesday where I come from." She blinked slowly at me. I could see her mind working, trying to fit this new information into whatever picture of humans she had built up over her life. Whatever that picture had been, it was changing now. "Thank you, human, for the information. My name is Marcus." "Thank you, Marcus." I walked back to the princess's receiving room. Larathi was sitting very still, looking out of the small window at the stars flowing past. Captain Oren stood by the door, arms crossed, his face set in a hard, thoughtful look. "How are you feeling?" I asked her. "I am thinking." "About what?" "About how many other traitors are still hidden on this ship, about what will meet us at the capital, about whether I will live to see my father again." Her voice was very quiet, not afraid, just honest. I sat down across from her. "Princess," I said, "look at me." She turned her golden eyes to me. "You are going to see your father again," I said. "You are going to walk into that capital. You are going to face your uncle. You are going to show the High Court exactly what he is, and when it is over, you are going to sit on that throne someday, and you are going to lead your people, and you are going to live a very long life. That is what is going to happen." "How can you know that, Marcus?" "Because I am going to make sure of it." She stared at me for a long time. Then, slowly, she reached across the small table and placed her silver hand on top of mine. Her skin was cool, softer than I had expected. "You are a strange man, Marcus Kane," she said softly. "You said that already. It bears repeating." Captain Oren cleared his throat politely. From the door, "Your Highness, we should move the princess to a more secure room. For the rest of the journey, the inner vault chamber, if you permit. It has only one entrance and reinforced walls." "Do it, Captain." "And the human?" She looked at me, really looked at me. "The human," she said, "sleeps outside my door from now until we reach the capital." Captain Oren opened his mouth, perhaps to argue, then he closed it. He simply bowed. As you wish, Your Highness. And that was how I became, officially, the personal guard of the Crown Princess of the Aurelian Dominion, a human, a stranger, a man she had known for less than 3 days. She trusted me completely. She had no idea what I really was. And somewhere 2 star systems ahead of us, her uncle was making his final preparations. I did not know it yet, but the real fight was still coming. Everything up to now had been the opening, the small stuff, the appetizer, before the main course. The Duke had much worse things planned for us at the capital. But then so did I. The last full day on the ship passed. Slowly, too slowly. Captain Oren ran 2 more full searches of the crew. No more hidden attackers were found. He did not relax, neither did I. We both knew that the people who planned this had planned for us to find the 2 we found. What we had not found yet was the thing that was still coming. The 3rd attack, the real one. Because there is always a 3rd attack. That is how these things work. I spent most of the day outside Laratha's new chamber, sitting in a simple chair I had pulled from a storage area. I watched the hallway. I listened to the ship. I thought. Around midday, Captain Oren brought me food, some kind of flat golden bread with a mild cream spread on it. He sat down beside me on another chair he had pulled up. You have not slept, he said. No. You need to. I need her to be alive when we land. More than I need sleep. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, You are not what I expected. Marcus Kane. What did you expect? I do not know. A louder man, a man who needs to prove things. Humans, the few I have met, always seem to need to prove things. We are a young species. We have not yet learned when to stop shouting. He made a soft sound that might have been a laugh, perhaps, but you do not shout. I am older than I look. Many soldiers are. We sat in silence for a while. The hallway was quiet. The ship hummed softly around us, far away somewhere in the walls. A pipe clicked once as it warmed. Captain, I said, how far can I trust you? He turned his head slowly and looked at me. That is a strange question, human. It is an important one. He thought about it carefully. I liked that. I liked that he did not give me a quick answer just to sound loyal. I will tell you the truth, he said at last. I have served her family for 30 years. I loved her mother. May the old stars keep her. I love the princess as if she were my own daughter. If you ask me to choose between her life and any other thing in this galaxy, I would choose her life, even if that meant standing against my own king, even if that meant dying in a hallway on a ship far from home. That is how far you can trust me. I looked at him for a long moment. Good, I said. Why do you ask? Because when we land on your capital, things are going to get very bad, very fast, and I need to know who is going to still be standing beside me when they do. Captain Oren studied me. His blue eyes were very sharp now. Marcus Kane, he said slowly, who are you really? I looked down at the golden bread in my hand. I thought about the question. I thought about how to answer it. I am a man, I said at last, who was trained for a very long time to do things that most people should not have to do, and then I spent 10 years trying to stop being that man, and now I am going to have to be him again, just for a little while, just long enough to get your princess safely onto her throne. And after that I was planning on going home. He nodded slowly. I hope, he said quietly, that you get to go home, Marcus Kane. So do I, Captain. We did not speak again that afternoon. But something had changed between us. Something quiet and good. I had a friend on this ship, a real one, an ally I could count on when the bad hour came. And the bad hour was coming. I could feel it closing in on us like a slow tide. That night, as the ship's artificial stars dimmed into night cycle and the corridors went quiet, I sat in my chair outside the princess's door and waited. I did not sleep. I listened, I watched. Somewhere in the dark ahead of us, Golden City was waiting. Somewhere in that city, a smiling uncle was finishing his plans. And somewhere deep inside my chest, thing I had not let out in a very long time, was slowly opening its eyes. I was ready. Dawn on the Silvern Dawn was not like dawn on Earth. There was no sun, no slow brightening of a sky. The ship system simply shifted the light from soft blue to a warm, pale gold over the course of about 20 minutes. The corridors that had been cool and dim became warm and bright. The ship felt awake again. I had been sitting outside Loratha's chamber for almost 9 hours. Captain Oren came to relieve me. He had slept. He looked fresh. He brought me a cup of something hot and dark that was as close to coffee as the Aurelian food machines could make. Go, he said, sleep. 2 hours. We will reach the capital system this afternoon. I am fine. You are not fine. You are upright. That is a different thing. He pointed down the corridor. Sleep, Marcus. I will watch her door on my life. I nodded slowly. I was in fact very tired. Just because I could stay awake did not mean it was smart to keep doing so. A snort's tired fighter was a slow fighter, and I was going to need every bit of speed I had left. I walked to my small guest room. I drank the coffee. I lay down on the bed. I closed my eyes. I was asleep in about 10 seconds. I did not dream. Exactly 2 hours later, Captain Oren knocked softly on my door. I was awake. Before my eyes opened, I sat up, washed my face in the small sink, and checked my reflection, the scar on my cheek, the gray eyes a little clearer now, the dark hair short and practical. I looked at myself for a long moment. All right, old man, I said quietly to my reflection. Let's go to work. I walked out of my room and down the corridor toward the front of the ship, toward the princess and the captain and the quiet golden light, toward the capital world of Selvener Prime, toward whatever was waiting for us. There, I felt for the first time in a very long time completely calm. The hunter inside my chest had finished stretching. He was ready now, wide awake, patient as stone, and when the moment came, he was going to remind the entire Aurelian Dominion what my species had learned long ago on a small blue planet full of hungry things. They just did not know it yet. But soon, very soon, they would. Selvener Prime came into view on the main view screen just after midday. And despite everything I had been through, despite the enemies waiting for us, despite the cold hunter's calm inside my chest, I stopped for a moment and just stared. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. The planet was pale gold and deep blue, wrapped in soft white clouds. 2 small silver moons orbited around it in a slow, graceful dance. Even from space, I could see the massive crystal cities glittering on the surface, like scattered diamonds. Each city was built high into the sky, with spires that rose thousands of meters into the clouds. It is called the Jewel of the Old Stars, Larathi said softly. She had come up beside me without a sound. She was dressed now in her full royal clothes, a long white gown with gold thread woven in patterns of flowers and flames. Her silver hair was braided with gold beads. She wore no crown yet. The crown was waiting for her in the palace. It's beautiful, princess. It is my home, Marcus. She looked sideways at me. I am glad you get to see it no matter what comes next. No matter what comes next, I agreed. Captain Oren stepped up to my other side. He was also in full dress uniform. Now polished silver armor, a long ceremonial cloak. He carried his spear in his right hand. He looked, I had to admit, magnificent. Landing at the royal docks in 20 minutes, he said, Your Highness, your father has been told of your arrival, but not yet told of the attacks. He will be waiting at the welcome platform with full court. Good. Your uncle will also be there. Excellent, she said, and her voice had gone very cold now. Let him come, let him stand there smiling, and let him watch as I walk past him alive with my human at my side. I felt my lips twitch upward. She was learning. A few days ago this girl had been alone and running. Now she was a woman getting ready to walk into the center of her enemy's territory with her head up and her eyes sharp. She was a princess. I could see it now clearly. I could see the queen she would one day be, if we made it through this day. Princess, I said quietly before we land, I want you to know something. Yes. Whatever happens in that royal hall, whatever I do, whatever you see, I looked at her carefully. Do not be afraid of me, all right? She stared at me. Her golden eyes searched my face. Marcus, she said slowly, what do you mean? I mean that you trusted me when you did not know what I was, and in the next few hours you're going to find out what I am, and I do not want that to change. What is between us, that is all. She was silent for a long time. Marcus Kane, she finally said, I do not know what you are, but I trust you. Whatever you are, I trust you. I have trusted you since you stood up in that bar with a tray in your hand. That will not change today. She reached out and took my hand. Her silver fingers wrapped around mine. Let us go home, she said. The ship began its slow descent into the golden world below, and I went to war.